Princess Haya bint Al Hussein is said to be in fear for her life.
While it's obvious the princess and the sheikh have had a massive blow-up,
leaving her husband without warning and taking $56 million with her.
their falling out is about to get a whole lot more volatile.
She's requested asylum and filed for divorce.
Next week, a British court will begin hearing a bitter custody battle over the couple's two children, 11-year-old daughter Jalila and 7-year-old son Zayed.
Well, they're both enormously rich, and he is worth about $5 billion and is head of a feudal kingdom, in effect.
Just like Princess Haya, to outsiders, Princess Latifah seemed to have it all. An adrenaline junkie who loved living the high life. But she kept a secret, and it wasn't until she became friends with Tina Johainen that Latifah spoke about it. She said when she was a teenager, she tried to leave Dubai, but was caught and then severely punished.
So in total, I was in prison for 3 years and 4 months. It was constant torture. Even when they weren't physically beating me up, they would torture me.
She basically had no freedom. She was not allowed to have certain friends, even talk to certain family members. Her life was just very restricted.
Latifah felt trapped and oppressed here in Dubai, so eventually she hatched an extraordinary escape plan with her best friend Tina. It was equal parts Thelma and Louise and James Bond, at first fleeing by road to Oman, then by boat and jet ski to India, and finally flying to the United States, where the princess was going to seek political asylum. The reward was freedom at last, but if both women were caught, well, the consequences would be dire.
She would often say, this is life or death for me. She was willing to take the risk, even if she would not make it.
To assist with her escape, Princess Latifah hired former French spy Hervé Joubert. After months of planning, Latifah launched her daring bid for freedom in February last year. Her friend Tina was by her side.
Before we got in the car, we're like, this is it, it's really happening. We were hugging each other, and whatever happens, we're both doing this because we want to do it.
They drove to neighbouring Oman before facing the most dangerous part of this escape plot. A 5-hour trip by dinghy and jet skis to international waters, where Hervé's yacht, the Nostromo, was waiting.
I saw a woman who knew what she was doing. She was absolutely determined to get away.
From there, they set a course for freedom, Goa in India. But on the second day of that voyage, Latifah made a foolish mistake. She messaged her family to let them know that she'd escaped. She didn't think there was any trouble coming before they got to India.
No, she was aware of some trouble coming, but imagine being living in a golden cage all your life.
When trouble did arrive, it arrived in force. Nearing India, Hervé noticed his yacht was being tracked by air and by sea. At 11 p.m. on March the 4th last year, it was raided by commandos.
There was a guy in front of me with a gun to my face, and somebody grabbed me in the back. They handcuffed me. When I was handcuffed, they threw me on the floor. They hit me in the head. Blood was pouring out of my head.
Amid the chaos, Tina and Latifah were handcuffed and hauled up to the boat's deck, exchanging one last look before the princess was dragged off at gunpoint. What was the look in her eyes at this stage?
It was full of fear, but she was still fighting. She was not planning to give up.
Taken against her will, Princess Latifah was returned to Dubai. Human rights lawyer David Haig led the chorus of international condemnation, but for months, all he received in return was silence. To help in the fight for Latifah's freedom, David has gathered a network of like-minded supporters. And it now includes the princess's own cousin, who for the first time is talking about life inside the palace. Why have you decided to speak?
Because it was very hard for me to ignore it. I couldn't sleep at night. I have to do something. I believe that everything that anybody does will help Latifa. These are the adopted kids that they have there.
Unlike most men in Dubai, Marcus Sabri knows the hardships often faced by women in the royal family. That's because he used to be one of them. You're Marcus now.
I am.
Who did you grow up as?
I grew up as Fatima.
Was it apparent to you from a very young age that boys were treated very differently to girls in Dubai?
Yes. Yeah, big time. Yeah, and I think that's why I didn't last there. Like siblings, really, more than cousins, you know.
Marcus, who transitioned to life as a man 10 years ago,
me and Shamsa playing a video game,
says he shared a special bond with not only Latifa, but also her sister Shamsa, another Dubai princess who tried but failed to escape the royal family.
All I'm saying is that I made up my mind. At the moment, I have hope, I have a goal, but to get there, I'll have to sacrifice some of the things I have.
Shamsa obviously trusted you. I mean, you were almost her confidant in those letters.
Yeah.
What did she say to you when she opened up?
That she would rather die than carry on the life there. For me, it's very tough to talk about this because I feel I've let her down.
It was July 2000, and 18-year-old Shamsa was holidaying at the family's $130 million country estate in Surrey, in England. She managed to escape the compound and was free for several weeks before eventually being caught and sent back to Dubai.
She was in prison for 8 years, and then I was allowed to visit her.
In the video Latifa recorded in the lead up to her own bid for freedom, she talked about her sister's treatment.
Right now, she has a psychiatrist with her, and she's surrounded by nurses. They watch her take her pills. They make sure that she takes all of her pills. These drugs to control her mind. I don't know what they are. And so her life is totally controlled.
While it's impossible to verify Princess Latifa's claims about her sister, Marcus believes every single word. Do you think the way that Shamsa was allegedly taken back to Dubai from the UK would be playing on Princess Haya's mind now?
I hope so. I hope there must be a reason why she left. I think it just shows you that we're not safe wherever we go.
In an extraordinary twist, 1 month after these photos were released, Haya also fled the royal palace. First to Germany and then on to London. Shamsa, Latifa, Haya, 3 princesses have all fled Dubai. Why no princes?
Because they have the freedom to come in and out whenever they do. They have the freedom. The women there haven't got the freedom that the men have.
Marcus believes Haya left her husband because she finally realised the truth about what had happened to Latifa.
It's very sad. Somebody's taken like her life away from her. It's like you are living, but you have no right to live. Is she being locked up? Is she being beaten? Is she being fed? I wouldn't treat even an animal the way she has been treated.
Lawyer David Haig says allegations Latifa has been mistreated will prove crucial in Haya's custody case.
Because Whereas before, they were just essentially trying to cover up, hide her away, and hope it goes away. We're here a year later, we know it's not going to go away now. Her evidence, it would seem to me, is going to become incredibly important in the UK court.
The stage is now set for the next chapter in this battle royale. Sheikh Mohammed is taking Princess Haya to Britain's High Court in what will be one of the most extraordinary custody cases the world has ever seen. All of a sudden, the private lives of the rulers of Dubai are about to play out very publicly here in London. This is going to be the biggest custody battle the world's almost ever seen between Sheikh Mohammed and Haya. Do you think it's safe for those two kids to go back to Dubai?
Absolutely not. And I hope one day that Latifa is free to be able to answer that question as well, and she can tell you why not in detail.
Given the amount of negative headlines that are really starting to pile up around what's happening in Dubai, for Sheikh Mohammed, do you get a sense that he might feel like his castle is starting to crumble around him?
I think it has. We're also seeing people, that were around the family that for the first time ever are prepared to speak because his power is falling. People are no longer as scared of him as they once were.
My aim, my hope, my dream is that I can hug them, see them, make sure that they're all right, okay,
Silent for so long, Marcus says he'll now keep on talking until he's holding his cousins, Shamsa and Latifa, safely in his arms. Do you believe it'll happen one day?
I do, or I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't do this if I didn't believe it could happen.
What would it mean to you to hug your cousins again?
Really, amazing. Amazing. Hugging them will be just amazing. Definitely.
The human rights group detained in Dubai. How did you first become aware of Latifa's case?
Latifa contacted me a few days before the incident on the 4th of March. She contacted me via email, and I disregarded it. I thought it was a hoax. And
you thought, come on, Princess of Dubai? What?
I actually thought it was someone in the UAE trying to set me up and, for example, publish fake news and discredit me. So we went through a rigorous process of identifying and validating that it was, actually Princess Latifa.
Latifa sent Rada copies of her UAE identity card and passport. And then there was this post on Latifa's verified Instagram account, announcing her escape and fear of the consequences. Fear that now appeared well-founded as the commandos were storming the boat.
It was very concerning when Latifa telephoned me and said, I can hear gunshots. There's people outside. Help me, help me. And then completely disappears.
The cabin started filling with smoke, so we couldn't see it in front of us. We couldn't breathe anymore. So we had to start moving towards the upper deck. And on top of the stairs, there was multiple machine guns pointing at us.
The two women were handcuffed and thrown to the blood-stained decks of the boat. And the last Tina Johanan saw of her best friend was Latifa being dragged off the boat at gunpoint. What was the look in her eyes at this stage?
It was full of fear, but she was still fighting. She was not planning to give up. But she said, don't take me back to UAE, rather shoot me here. But regardless of her yelling and kicking, she was taken away.
At that point, did they drag Latifa off the boat?
So at that point they dragged her off the boat, and I never saw her again.
With Latifa gone, Hervé and Tina claimed they were bundled onto a UAE warship, taken back to Dubai, where they were thrown straight in prison.
And then they put me in a cell in solitary confinement.
And did they tell you that you could be facing the death penalty?
No, the next day I was interrogated by, I believe, a high official. He said that I would be tortured before I get killed, with graphic detail. He said, for what you have done, you stabbed in the back the ruler. I said, I did not stab anybody in the back. I'm just helping a woman who wants to be free. No, it doesn't work that way. And he said that for what you did, you are not going to be executed. We're going to take we're going to pry your flesh bit by bit until you die.
If claims of torture in Dubai sound too extreme to be true, then listen to David Haig's story. When you say torture, what are you talking about?
I was basically electrocuted and I was beaten severely. There was sexual abuse as well, which is very difficult to talk about still. And I mean, so severe was what they did to me that when I was released, I spent 6 months in hospital, recovering from the broken bones, and as well as the broken mind.
David was the managing director of Leeds United Football Club, which was taken over by a Dubai business back in 2012. But when a dispute over finances erupted, he went to Dubai chasing debts, only to then find himself locked up on false charges that he would later be acquitted of.
It all escalated so quickly because one minute I'm coming there to have a meeting, the next minute I'm there as a check, and the next minute I'm standing in a police station in Dubai with police officers hitting me around the back of the head.
David is now a human rights lawyer and has taken Latifa's case all the way to the United Nations. Some might say you're just out for revenge.
I think revenge is the wrong word. I mean, at the end of the day, a girl called us. Ignore the fact that she's a princess, ignore the fact that she's from Dubai. That's irrelevant. If any lady or man or anyone had called me and said, I'm on a boat, I can hear gunshots, can you help me? I think anyone watching this, would you say no?
Latifa's candid, homemade video was the turning point in this whole drama.
I didn't feel the pain, and it was like a half-hour torture session.
Human rights campaigner Rada Sterling released it to the media days after the boat was stormed, and the skipper, Hervé, is convinced that the spotlight it shone on Dubai saved his life.
We were going to be executed. That I had absolutely no doubt in my mind. And if you think of it, it's logical. They want to eliminate witnesses and destroy evidence. They kill everybody.
They will for sure try to discredit this video.
It's my strong belief that without the press coverage, without the spotlight on this case, that perhaps they would have been killed, or certainly they would still be in the secret prison.
I was driven to the airport, and they walked me through the passport control and all formalities, and waited until I boarded the plane. That's when I got my passport back, as well as my telephone.
I'd imagine they were really mixed emotions getting on that plane. Yes, you were free. Yes, you were going to live, but you're leaving your best friend behind.
Exactly. Yes, I couldn't believe what was happening and what had happened. It all felt so unreal.
I don't know what else to say.
It's been 4.5 months since the commandos stormed the boat and took Princess Latifa away. And still, there's been no formal response from Dubai, either confirming or denying the details of this extraordinary story. Our requests for an interview with a representative of the United Arab Emirates government have been declined. But unofficially, government sources in Dubai have been quoted as saying that the princess is back with her family and doing fine. But Latifa's friends won't rest until they hear the princess speak for herself. They're waging a very public campaign, demanding answers from the Sheikh and his government as to the whereabouts and safety of his daughter.
If I don't make it out, I really hope that some positive change will happen from all of this.
Imagine if the Queen of England had been accused of the same crimes, of human rights abuses, of imprisoning Prince Harry and torturing him. It would be worldwide outrage and scandalous. And there's no reason at all that the ruler of Dubai should be treated any differently.
It's got more and more and more embarrassing for him because they've tried to cover it up, they've lied about it, and they haven't been honest. And that's made what was already a very bad situation even worse. And the fact is now the world knows about what they've done in international waters, which they did in secrecy, expecting that nobody would. And their response to it has been terrible. The act itself was terrible. The response, also terrible. And now that they've put themselves in a corner. The world is watching them. Where is she?